Um, Bob too filled in last week. Clint said did a great job on Exodus. And excuse me. Is that something that you wanted to continue?
I should be welcome to if you or I, if you continue to do that, I'm happy to. If you want me to do that, I'll fill in when you need it. If you return to it, I like it because it's sort of affordable. We can jump into it. We all can do it. So,
All right.
flexible on that.
Okay. Before the week before that, I had brought up what I had read in the Christian Chronicle, and it was an article, "Are we gambling our souls away?" Did anybody read that after I suggested that? Okay. All right. Class was not very good in doing what I asked them to do. And they met in Las Vegas, and they were talking about, again, churches are declining. Churches of Christ are declining in numbers. And what are some of the reasons? In the article, it was in Las Vegas. They had their meeting in Las Vegas. Are we gambling our souls away? I better turn this off. And I just found it sort of interesting, some of the things that they had come up with. And we brought this up. The first thing that we mentioned was the virtual church. Now, the virtual church came into existence during COVID, really, didn't it? Did you guys have a virtual church during COVID?
800 number we called them. 800 number that we called. We had to make a call, a phone call, not video, a conference call.
Got you. Okay. We were in Florida, and I would watch I would listen to 3 sermons a Sunday. You know, I was getting fed. One of the problems, it seems, that a lot of people after COVID did not come back to church. I don't know if that's true here or not. Okay. And I understand virtual church for people who can't get out. But what about people who can get out? And it's maybe more convenient for them just to stay at home in their pajamas and watch the church service. Now, the one guy was pretty strong in the article. He said he thinks it's a sin to do that. What are your thoughts on that? Jack and then Kathy.
They're trying to sell property without the adequate consultation and support of the parishioners. If they don't get the answer they want from the relevant dicastery, they have a court of appeal, and that's the Apostolic Signatura. About Cardinal Memberti, just one other sort of aspect. Well, we're going to be able to hear his tryout of Latin in the Mass at 5 today, to just make sure, but he was the Vatican's Secretary for Relations with States, essentially the Vatican Foreign Minister. So he's way more than just a competent canonist. He was the one to whom Pope Benedict and prior St. John Paul II had entrusted so many of his relations with all the states. We don't call the head of the
And the Lord emphasized that.
in the Vatican a foreign
You know,
minister.
I don't think it was an accident
We're not
that the Lord
most of the countries
sent
with
them
whom
out
we have
by
relations we're already
twos.
there with all the Catholics. So we've always called the Secretary for Relations.
See, well, he can cover a lot more ground if we just send them out one month. He sent them out by
There's a
twos,
Secretary
Kathy?
for Relations with States who really manages all the churches diverse. conversations with those various countries. And so he is a very gifted churchman who is going to be celebrating that 5 o'clock Mass and eventually announcing good news of great joy to the whole world.
And I know we can't wait. Well, he's also known as someone who was a big advocate, or is a big advocate, of religious freedom, an issue that I think actually
Right.
you've dealt with a lot, particularly coming in from the United States, working through the last 15 years of changes in religious freedom law, changes in the United States Supreme Court. What could
Now, don't forsake assembling together.
Okay? Bob?
We use the term belong to a church, and I don't think that's applicable in your living room when you're intentionally not attending services and going to the group you belong to. And I was trying to count, but I have shook hands with a handful of people already this morning when I get to church. But when I come here, I didn't know their names. So then as I learned their names, it made quite a difference on going to a church service. I know what I've said, and nobody pays attention to what I say, but good church is when you feel better when you leave than you did when you came. And this, a serious part of that is the interaction with your brothers and sisters. And Kathy and I had gone out and seen some people that, I guess, need visiting, let's just put it that way. When you're in that home for an hour, you come away with, these are entirely different people than I know now. And how can you care for somebody you don't see? And you've heard the term before, if we have Thanksgiving and there's 2 empty chairs, that's a big deal. Where's those people at this Thanksgiving? So, I think a significant part of the rewards of being a Christian is going to church. And I don't know if those same people who stayed home and send a check in or how they can handle giving. Hopefully they have the Lord's Supper, but this is all part of a combined plan that God had for us to come together. And I know when I come here, I'm going to see Jerry.
Right.
And some other people are always very cordial. And I think we need to go see people that are not coming and see if we can encourage them to come. And this, things we do here are a plus. The fellowships, the potlucks, the barbecue, going into the community today and praying for people. That's cohesive. And I think that's what we have to do if we're going to grow this church. People got to know we care.
Bob?
I think we all know that, people are meant to interact with other people. It's the way God made us. It's why solitary confinement is a serious punishment even to hardened criminals. We're supposed to be with other people and connect with them. And if you're just doing virtual church, you're only getting a message sent to you, and that's not the same as interconnected relationships with other people. Some of the small talk we all make, we get around the issues of, I'm having this issue right now, or could you help me with this? Or somebody does help you, and you go, wow, I feel really good about that person now that helped me. And you can't do that if you just watch their message on TV.
Yeah. Bill?
Well, I'm thinking that too, though. I know churches like Naples and the one I go to, and also the Gulf Shore one that I go to there in Fort Myers. And they have it, but they have lots of people coming to church. But they have it on the screen, what they do with send their money, for their giving and all that kind of stuff. But those that can't come to church, but I'm thinking a lot of those, because they're older congregations everywhere. Some can't make it, some just can't come out of their house. And we don't have anything set up like that here.
Faye?
I think it's the best place for us to get support and like-minded people that have pray for us.
I don't know how many people I've heard that has gone through a tragedy of losing somebody who said, I couldn't have made it without the church.
Yeah. Amen.
You mentioned though that they said maybe it's a sin if
Yeah.
you don't. And the question I always have with that is, who gets to decide that if I'm home and I don't go to church for some reason, who gets to decide whether it was a good enough reason not to come to church? And we need to be real careful about, I don't know what's going on in your life, you don't know what's going on in my life, and if we start deciding, well, you should have been at church last week, that wasn't serious enough or whatever, that, I think we're stepping over some bounds that we really need to, boundaries that we really need to be careful.
I agree with that. When I met with the elders, one of the things I told them was that my wife, there'll be times that she cannot be here. She just cannot be here. And there were people at the other church that we were at, there were some people that was hard on her. And I knew, and she knew, she was doing the best that she could. And Judy, you probably in that situation. Mary Ann, Mary, you know, and I remember growing up, there was a lady who was sick a lot. And I don't know who it was, but I just remember my mother complaining. I don't feel well, but I still go to, you know, everybody's made different. And, you know, we need to, you know, be sensitive to that too. Good point, Jack.
I've been writing a lot to Michael, who's in prison.
Mhm.
And he, of course, can't get out, but the letters that he gets mean so much to him. And he's had cellmates, but they keep doing things wrong, and they get thrown in the hole. So then he's alone again. But that loneliness that he has is very hard on him. But he's been so sincere with the church families that have taken him in, helping him. He's been writing a children's book, and he's on chapter 13, and it's almost ready to go to the publishers. But so many of us keep encouraging him, find something good that you can do for the glory of God, and do that so it keeps you out of trouble, and that's what he's been doing.
And maybe that's God taking a bad situation and making something good come from it. I don't believe God causes bad things to happen, but I believe God can work in bad things to make something positive come. Yeah, you know, now, Judy and Jean, didn't you guys get together recently, I heard? And, uh-oh, the way you laughed.
Well, we threw Jack in on it too.
Drug in.
What were you knitting or?
Learning how to oil a featherweight sewing machine, and so Jack knows how to do that now. Right. Yeah.
All right, and because you're going through a long time right now. Yeah, you know, and Bob, you know, I know, and I've talked to Bill, and it's been 5 years.
It's been longer than that. It's been 8 years.
8 years.
It just seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, and when we're together and I've talked to him, you know, and he get emotional about that. And yeah, we need to you know, think about those things.
Peggy too.
Peggy, yes. Yeah. Did you say Peggy Sue?
No, Peggy too.
Peggy Sue, okay. I just about broke out in that song, Peggy Sue, Peggy Sue. Bob?
I have in loneliness, I never thought I'd be bothered by that because I can entertain myself while I'm a poor entertainer. But the Browns, that's Aaron Sterling's parents. I have him over every Thursday night for dinner and half an hour to an hour worth of conversation. And she's good to look, that's part of this thing, but I'm just saying that is an oasis in the middle of my week, and I see my wife going over there and never ask, and they text or call me every Thursday morning. And so that is a big plus, let's just put it that way. But this is a family from the third.
Yeah,
I do it with her.
yeah. Yes.
I think that people that are going through mourning, you don't have a clue, I mean, I've lost those of parents. You don't have a clue until you lose.
Yeah. Yeah, losing a spouse. Yeah. Yeah. Very good point, yeah. Okay, now, here's something I'm going to throw out. Two things. Patrick Mead, who visited with us last summer online, he has a virtual church called the Harbor, the Safe Harbor. He was fired from a church because he would not take a political stand. And so he started this Safe Harbor. And they have people tuning in from all over the world now. Now, Patrick is a terrific speaker. But I know I have friends that they just tune into him every Sunday. You know, and these people, other people need to know them. This couple has a lot to offer. You know, and so in basketball, we always say, by the way, everything comes back to basketball coaching, no matter what it is.
And cars.
And what?
And cars.
Cars. We say your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness. Okay? Clint, who was here last week, Clint is driven. I mean, driven. And that's a strength. But it also can become a weakness too. Is that your car, Bill?
Yeah, it is.
Someone breaking into it? You just know the sound of the horn, huh? And that can be his greatest, that can be his weakness too. You know, and so I want to fix things. Pat will say, Garth, I don't want you to fix it. I want you to just listen to me. Okay? Are you smiling, Faye? And does Bob ever act like an attorney talking to you?
I stand on the fence. I stand on the fence.
Okay, all right, you're guilty, Bob. But you know, and so those, and I think with Safe Harbor, I think there's some really good to that. But I also think there's some negative things to it. And taking people away. It's just more convenient for me to get up, not, shave or brush my teeth or whatever, and sit on the couch, drink coffee, and listen. Pat?
Well, I think that you have a place to meet, the ones that are local meet together. But I guess my experiences have even been different than yours, even though we're married. But because I was at home with Mom, literally, 5, 6 years, where she could not get out. She was 98, 99, and for many reasons, she could not get out, and because of dementia, it was difficult for anyone else to keep her because it set some things off. So those kind of things have a place.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, yeah.
But because they can become, Mom and I wasn't taking it, we went through the Bible together
How many times did you guys read through the Bible? What?
a couple of times,
Yeah.
just having our own Sunday morning service.
Yeah.
But yes, it can also lead to getting out of a habit.
I have it. Yeah.
But it's,
That's what happened to Lindsay and Suzette,
yeah.
And he finally admitted it. When they bought the boat, they started to spend time with their boat friends on weekends.
I think it's what happened to a lot of people after COVID, right? They just got out of the habit.
Yeah.
It's comfortable now. They really enjoy just lounging around on Sundays. And it's Satan, right? And Satan does that to you. He says, do you really need to go to church today? Couldn't you just tune in? Satan uses any tool he has.
Now, not all churches have been affected by COVID, it seems like. You remember when I had Adam Hill with us a couple of weeks on Wednesday? That church was 700 people at one time. And they might be 200, 250 now. We were 200 at Lake Orion. And they might have 50 now. And I asked Adam, why is Woodside growing? Why are they planting churches all over? And I didn't like his answer. He says, well, they're in the performance. Well, they have 500 baptisms last year. Okay? Ron Eubanks, a friend of mine, went there and he volunteered working. He said, Garth, the building was used all day and night. I asked Adam, do you have a program for a person who's divorced? He says, we can get him one. I said, do you have a program? This place has divorce recovery. They have, what do we call now, drug rehabilitation? We don't call it alcohol recovery or what? No, at the church. But anyway, they had a place. They have, something. But they have a group that meets for that. Those who just lost a loved one, they have a group for that. And how much time?
So Garth, continuous recovery is one of these groups, and we should look about having that here. Continuous recovery is any kind of addiction issue, and the people who become connected with that really like it.
Yeah. We've been talking about it. We need to do it. We need to do it. And sometimes I want to ask, what would you like this church to be? I know a person in another church said, why can't we just be the little old church that we used to be? Well, they got it.
Now, Ashley, we watched and we had Elias Turk
Yeah.
from our sister agency in the Middle East talking to us about how
Okay,
sent off
we'll
kids,
continue
I'm sure you saw
unscriptural church practices.
praying that their God
That's sort of a can of worms,
enthusiasm when the American
you know, and we'll talk about that. Referring to leaders by academic or hierarchical names. That was another thing they said was a problem in the church. You know, we could call Bob Jr., Bob II, we could call him Dr. Norton. You know, he has his
because he's so active on social media,
juris, whatever. And, you know, Clint has his doctorate. Or they say we need to quit doing that. Or, like, we have a youth director. We need to get rid of that. You know, and things like that. Yeah, you know. No, no, you know, and they're talking about getting rid, that's driving them away. And then church unity, which is huge. And then the last one I want to get into, hear from our young people. Okay. Maybe we have to ask ourselves the question, time up. Well, you know, when we get to that, are we the kind of church young people want to go to now? Bob's saying no. I don't think my grandchildren would like to come here every Sunday. But, you know, something to think about. And things they might like, we might not like.
Sitting at our table yesterday, and she was in fifth grade, and I asked if you have much youth here, you know, and she said, no, there is no youth here. And I said, well, who are your friends that keep you, you know, with you, the way you are, if you don't have church friends, who do you have? Your school group, you hang around. She said, well, she goes to a private school, a Catholic school here in Cheshire. And I thought, well, I told her, well, you're going to someplace where we should having some friends who got church. And she said that's what it would be.
Be careful now, right? Ozzy?